My name is Jeff. Hi. I'm at Jentel as a flash fiction writer. And if you're not familiar with that, that just means very short stories, usually typically 1,000 words or less. And I'm going to skip most preamble here, and I'm not going to talk about my process. That wouldn't, help anybody here. And I just want to read a few pieces, as many as I can. But I did want to say my first creative form, there's going to be some photographs up here. My first creative form was photography. And somewhere around 1985, I lost about 15 to 20,000 negatives and maybe 800 to 1,000 prints. And these are just a handful of the ones I salvaged. There's very few left. And I like to have them around me a lot when I write, because partly they remind me of so many things, not least that pretty much everything is ephemeral. So I'm going to start with a piece, and in fact it's not a piece of flash fiction, it's more of a prose poem. It's the most recent thing I've written, and it's not even completed. I'm still editing it, working on it. However, I want to read it because I think it sets the tone for the rest of them. So it's called 1 in a Million. I can see a world in parallax, kiltered, very similar to this one, only without narrative, and therefore without history. Wars disappear like cigarette smoke, and every lover whispers, "As long as there was wind, I'll kiss you." Its inhabitants do what's strictly necessary. Tragedy blows away in the breeze, and grief is the sound of a distant songbird. I knew only one person that made that transit, and she was 1 in a million. I trusted her eyes, but she didn't leave much behind. Not a small smile, not even a nod. Certainly nothing to prepare me for the annihilation of my friend Marcus, or the dismantling of my friend Joshua, who are human beings after all, and therefore impure, and gloriously so, but now erased as if their births were illegal. Their bones gnawed and worried by the hegemon that claimed and branded and buried them alive. How to be small, how to avoid taint in a superpower, how to share our mantras and believe in nothing, not even ourselves, because survival can be a crime too. I knew only one person that made that leap. I trusted her eyes and she left us behind. But she was 1 in a million, and I can't begrudge her that. So that's the intro. In the mid-'70s, I spent a lot of time in South Dakota, and this piece is called Washichu, which just means white man in Lakota. I drive with Delilah Littlewound to New Leipzig, just north of Standing Rock, where her sister Grace lives with a disabled brother and 2 elderly aunts in one small ranch house, ingeniously attached to 2 trailers. I've never been to North Dakota, and after driving for hours in this emptiness, I feel an unexplained sadness, just a deep loneliness. It's unexpected, and surprising myself, I tell Delilah. After a pause to light a cigarette, she says, "This land isn't empty. It's full of ghosts. You just can't see them." She says it flat, matter of fact, no judgment at all. She doesn't care I don't know a thing. I think she prefers it that way. She passes me the cigarette, rests her feet on the dash, and leans into my shoulder. In the evening, we watch fuzzy TV. Then the aunties go to bed and we start drinking. There's Schlitz, Budweiser, and weed. Grace laments the lack of vodka. The conversation drifts from family troubles to money troubles to, "What the fuck are you doing with this washichu?" They both laugh. Grace says, "He's too skinny. What do you do with his muscles?" And Delilah says, "I suck them dry." And they both laugh. I'm having a good time. About 1 in the morning, 2 men arrive from Fort Berthold, distant cousins of some sort. They're very drunk and friendly and ask where I'm from, what I do, and seem to want to know all about me as they pass me a pint of Seagram's Crown 7. Grace stands back, Grace stands at the sink, back to us, pretending to wash the dishes. Delilah stands in the corner, arms folded, attentive. The men don't care to notice. When I go outside to pee, Delilah follows, hands me my keys, and says, "You better go right now. This won't turn out well." I give her a deep kiss, and she lets me. I try again, and she pushes me towards the car. 20 miles south, I slow down, too drunk to drive. I hide the car deep in the cheat grass and blue grama prairie, but can't sleep. My own shapeless sadness is as alien to Delilah as this haunted scrub prairie is to me. I don't think we'll last, but she probably knows this already. At 6, I head out again. I watch the flat yellow plains stretch beyond my sight. So these are ghost lands, she had told me, Wakangi Makochi. And I believe her. Now I can feel them. They aren't angry or frightening, but they are tailing me. They wonder who I am, why I'm here, what I want. I wonder the same. This next piece is set in the Midwestern industrial town that I grew up in, and that's the shortest of these. Boilermaker. Butchie and I drive north on Water Street, heading into a sunrise that warns us to keep us on our toes. This could be the day it all goes to hell. He's only halfway through his probation, and I don't need any more trouble than I've got. Lie low, my old girlfriend counsels, and use some common sense for a change, as though she's the reasonable one. On the east side of town, just across the river, sits the Hiram Walker Distillery. On the west is the Pabst Brewery. Depending on which way the wind is blowing, there's either hops or sour mash in the air. Crossing the bridge was called shot and a beer, or beer and a shot, depending on one's direction. Just breathing in this town should be called a Boilermaker. We wave back at a 14-foot woman in a swimsuit, as we do most mornings. Her name is Vanna, and her hand is stretched out like a hitcher's thumb. The tire store where she flags customers is long abandoned, but she still smiles, hopeful for a ride out of that dump. We'd pick her up if she'd fit. I think the three of us would do well in Mexico. After a few hours on the cleanup crew, we drive to Springdale Cemetery to eat our lunch, where we see two skinheads pissing in the Jewish section. Butchie watches them for a bit, then laments, "The things you see when you don't have a gun." Thing is, he's got a gun in the glove. That's it for that one. Okay, and I'm going to read this last one. It's called Flat Earth Boyfriend. There's a new boy in class who says the Earth is flat. I thought that was settled a long time ago, but he says Antarctica isn't at the southern pole, but surrounds the Earth on all sides. Kid was homeschooled until sixth grade and makes a pronouncement like he's handing down the commandments. It annoys some, but I appreciate his style, however idiotic the idea. Grace walks by him at lunch and pours her leftover Mountain Dew on his crotch. She and Iona laugh, and so do nearby boys. We decide we don't like flat Earth, and by we, I mean Grace and Iona. For me, the jury's still out. I'm impressed he didn't jump, shout, threaten, or cry. He just stood up and walked home like nothing happened. A couple days later in biology, I look at his untouched frog. He holds the knife but hasn't moved. I watch him every day, and I like the way his eyes are wary, but his walk is so solid and assured. "What's the problem, flat Earth boy?" I say. "You afraid of that thing?" "Make fun if you want," he said, pointing the blade. "Don't care at all. They just shove lives down our throats. You're just too blind to see it." "I see well enough. I can see what I need to. Like life is boring, but I'm not. If your insight's as good as you think it is, you'd see that too." When I see just a hint of a grin, that's when I know I got myself a flat Earth boyfriend. Later, I tell him the Earth is definitely round, but it's being sucked into a black hole, and we probably don't have more than 2-3 years. He nods, pensive, and says, "Maybe. I'll consider it, but only if you concede a flat Earth can disappear into a wormhole as easy as a round one." After school, we talk more about the cosmos and propaganda and existence, And then on the weekend, we make out in my mom's car for hours. He barely even rubs my boobs, and I don't think he knows much, probably a consequence of being homeschooled. But it's fine by me. Grace and Iona put out all the time, and I've decided they're not the least bit interesting. We call each other Flat Earth and Stargirl, which sounds poetic for sure. He tried Black Hole once, and I seriously had to explain why that wouldn't work. He's earnest, naive, and smarter than everyone else, and I think we make the coolest couple, even though no one I know would agree, which is practically the definition of cool. I strut around holding his arm, and Grace and Iona look at me like I'm out of my mind. In March, a new girl joins biology class. She wears red cowboy boots, talks fast, and smells like tobacco. She hears me call him Flat Earth and smirks. At lunch, she asks, "You two a performance piece or what?" I'd like to slap that grin off her face, but I ignore her and pull Flat Earth closer. He doesn't even look up from his astronomy book, but I watch her, and I notice she's got the same look I had when I first saw him. Like maybe the world's a stupid hoax, but at least here's someone who's not falling for it without a fight. Just before spring break, Flat Earth's mind starts to drift. I don't know what's wrong. I even show him how to use his fingers, but he just keeps repeating, "I don't think the theory of gravity makes sense." He just can't focus on anything else, and I say, "Sure," or "Cool," or "I always wondered about that." But what I really am thinking about is the new girl's thigh tattoo that peeks out when she sits down. I watch her the way you watch a thunderstorm build on the horizon. The new girl keeps looking at Flat Earth, and one day she brushes his arm in the hall and he doesn't pull away fast enough. That afternoon, I catch her behind the gym smoking a tiny cherry blend cigar. I tell her if she doesn't keep her distance, I'll take that cigar and burn it into her forehead like a third eye. She laughs. "I already got one," she said, and walks away. When break starts, Flat Earth and I see Close Encounters at the drive-in and make out. I stick my hand down his pants, and he seems to like it, but afterward he just says, "If gravity were real, the moon would revolve around the sun, no? And why are there two high tides a day when there should only be one?" Next day he disappears, and I can't find him anywhere. School starts again, and he doesn't return, and I start to think I'm out of boyfriend. But then his mother shows up, eyes dark and defeated, to retrieve his bio folder. 3 weeks later, he's back with cuts and bruises up and down his arms. I'm a good girlfriend, so I don't push. Last day in biology, we sit shoulder to shoulder. He holds his knife, and I gently hold his wrist and whisper, "If someone touches you, I'll make them disappear." Flat Earth doesn't respond, so he slices open the frog. Then he yanks the insides like he's ripping out his own organs. Thank you. Want me to pull this back, anybody? I'll do a little. Oh, questions. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your relationship to story structure and the kind of the balance between that and just expressive writing, if you have one?
Tell me what you mean by story structure.
Like, are you kind of thinking out a progression for your characters?
Rarely.
As you go?
Rarely. No, rarely. I have a thought. I have a short little scene, and then I just go from there, and I don't think about the structure. Other than the fact that I know I'm gonna write something short. You know, I'm not. I can find myself when I get off track. You know, and all of a sudden I got 800 words and I'm barely starting this story. So and then I'm uncomfortable because I've written some things longer than that, but mostly I try to stick to this length. Although here at Jentel, I've been trying to edit and write something much, much, much longer, which is really daunting to me, and I don't know how much progress I'm making. But yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't map these out. No. I just kind of, in fact, I think I talked to Leila the other day. I'm just interested in what happens in the story. And so if I keep writing, then I'll find out. Yeah. Brooke, did you have a question?
Earth flat or round?
Well, I always liked that idea of Antarctica surrounding us. Yeah, yeah. Maybe you can work it in with your skies thing. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.